It's 2 a.m. You should be asleep, but instead, you're replaying a conversation from earlier, wondering if what you said came out wrong. You're questioning decisions you've already made and imagining every possible way tomorrow could fall apart. Being an overthinker can be annoying, sure, but you're not broken. There's a reason your brain works this way. Hear me out. Overthinking is one of the most common and least understood psychological patterns in the modern world. As overthinkers, we live inside of our own heads, chronically worrying, caught in loops of what-ifs. We struggle making decisions due to racing thoughts on worst-case scenarios and endless second-guessing. We struggle with anxiety, stress, tension, and low self-esteem. But psychology tells us something interesting. Overthinkers aren't weak, they're just misunderstood. They're not anxious for no reason. In fact, the way their minds work is deeply tied to how they process the world around them. Let's dig inside the psychology of people who overthink. What drives it? What does it cost? Most importantly, what does it reveal about them? People might assume overthinking is just thinking too much, but psychologists define it more precisely. Overthinking, also called rumination, is the tendency to repetitively focus on distressing thoughts without moving toward a solution. It's not problem-solving, it's a cycle of negative thinking. The difference matters. Where problem-solving moves forward, overthinking spins in place, returning to the same fears, the same doubts, the same regrets, over and over again. And here's what makes it so hard to stop. It feels productive. It feels like if you just think about it a little more, you'll find the answer. But for overthinkers, more thinking rarely brings more clarity. It usually brings more noise. So what actually defines an overthinker? It goes deeper than just thinking a lot. Here are 5 psychological traits that quietly show up in people who struggle with overthinking. Overthinkers tend to have a low tolerance for uncertainty. The unknown feels threatening to them, so their brain works overtime, trying to predict, prepare for, and control every possible outcome. The cruel irony is that the more they try to create certainty through thinking, the more uncertain everything feels. Psychologists call this intolerance of uncertainty, and research consistently links it to both anxiety and excessive rumination. Many overthinkers are also highly empathetic. They don't just hear what people say, they analyze it. They are constantly replaying conversations, wondering how someone else felt, and studying the oh-so-subtle shifts in tones. This sensitivity is actually a strength for a number of reasons. This exact thinking creates people who are usually self-aware. Empathetic people, or empaths, have enhanced communication skills and promote emotional support and kindness. Overanalyzers also tend to be great critical thinkers, creative, and pay attention to detail, but it can also become a burden. Because when you feel things deeply, your mind tries to process all of it, and that processing never quite feels finished. Overthinkers are often their own harshest judges. They replay mistakes with HD clarity. They zoom in on moments where they stumbled, said the wrong thing, or didn't perform the way they hoped. Psychologists refer to this as self-referential processing, and in overthinkers, it tends to be disproportionately negative. The inner critic is loud, persistent, and rarely satisfied. Here's something that often surprises people. Overthinkers tend to be unusually perceptive. They pick up on details others miss. They read rooms quickly. They notice the things left unsaid. This perceptiveness feeds the overthinking engine, because a mind that notices everything also has more material to analyze, interpret, and worry about. For many overthinkers, the deepest fear isn't failure, it's regret. The fear of, what if I had just done it differently, is what keeps them paralyzed. So they analyze every decision, not to find the best answer, but to protect themselves from future regret. Psychologists call this counterfactual thinking, the mind's tendency to imagine alternative outcomes. In small doses, it's useful. In overthinkers, it can become a trap. Overthinking rarely appears out of nowhere. For many people, it develops as a coping mechanism, often in childhood or adolescence. In environments where things felt unpredictable or unsafe, the mind learned to stay alert, to think ahead, to prepare for every possible danger. Over time, that alertness became a default setting. Other overthinkers develop their patterns through perfectionism, often instilled by high-achieving environments, demanding caregivers, or early experiences where love felt conditional on performance. And some overthinking is simply neurological. Research suggests that certain brain structures, particularly the prefrontal cortex and amygdala, play a role in how intensely a person ruminates. Some minds are simply wired to process more deeply. None of this means overthinking is fixed, but understanding where it comes from is the first step to working with it, instead of against it. Research from the American Psychological Association has linked chronic rumination to higher rates of depression, anxiety, and even physical health problems. The constant mental load is exhausting, not in the dramatic way that people recognize, but quietly, slowly, like a drain that never quite closes. Overthinkers often struggle with decision fatigue. They take longer to commit, second-guess choices after making them, and can feel stuck even when their external circumstances are fine. And perhaps most painfully, they often know they're doing it. They know the loop isn't helping, but knowing doesn't automatically stop it. If you're an overthinker, and if you've made it this far, there's a good chance you are, here's what's important to understand. Your mind is not your enemy. The same depth that makes you overthink is the same depth that makes you thoughtful, perceptive, and genuinely caring. The goal isn't to think less, it's to learn to direct where your mind goes and to recognize when it's spinning rather than moving forward. That's a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned. And if you want to go deeper, the next video explores what your dreams are secretly trying to tell you. The mind is a fascinating place. Let's keep exploring it together.